7, right?
28, day 28.
You know, the book of Proverbs, you know Proverbs, you hear, you know, in church and talking about it, but I really never deeply looked at it until recently, before now, and it really, it speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah.
It speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if the woman chooses to listen to the volume,
That part.
my
About
daughter,
that.
and he said, "What's that on your arm?" And I showed him the Proverbs, and he said, "Oh," and I told him. He said, "Well, what?" And he wrote it down so he could read it. And he said, "My ex-wife need to read that."
What is the verse?
It's Proverbs 31:10 through 31. Yeah.
Proverbs 31 woman.
Mm-hmm. And it is, for some reason, women think of that and submission, they got it all wrong. And myself included.
Men do too.
Yeah, myself included.
A lot of people miss that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not about bossing anybody. It's about submission to God, and then it's easy to submit to your spouse if you're putting God 1st. Forget about what He's not doing.
Right.
And so a lot of women miss that.
And there's you know, if you look around a little bit, there's a lot of women that can testify that because they submitted fully to God and did their best to submit to their ignorant and unlearned and heathen husband, that they eventually got saved
Mm-hmm.
because of the way they lived and because they treated him that way. I've heard a testimony one time. This couple, they've been married for a lot of years, but they were speaking like at a marriage thing or something, and he was telling about, he said, you know, and he was telling how he used to treat his wife. He said, I would come in, smack her around, you know, cuss her out, you know, she'd cook, and if it wasn't just the exact right temperature, I'd throw it on the floor, leave for her to clean up, stuff. I mean, just, and you think, and she stayed with you? But through all that, he said she always respected me. He said, now, she would try to get me to go. She would only ask one time, and if I said no, she'd just drop it. She'd go on by herself. And he said, sadly, she had to do that for years before finally God got a hold of me. But finally, God did get a hold of him, and of course now things are great. Amen.
So one thing my pastors that always stuck with me is this. He said, it's not what you do to me that can send me to hell. It's what I do to you that can send me. So I think whatever you do to me, I still gotta answer to God. Regardless of whatever you did, you gotta answer to God for yourself. So that always stuck with me. That's one thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole, you know, I got no control over what happens to me.
Right.
What I have control over is what I think about it and then how I respond to it. You know, so.
Well, right before I came here, I was doing the single moms at the Rock, and that's one of the things that I repeated on a regular basis. Get a relationship with God, because marriage is hard without being submissive to God first. So in the midst of storms, you can't, because I know for me, it's back in the day, somebody gonna hit me. We finna do this. I'm not.
You know you're gonna pay for that, right?
Yes, you know you done messed up, but it's important.
Still a tough one for me right there.
Well, I've taken a lot, but I was telling my daughter the other day, and I said, you know, because they want marriage. You want marriage, but you're not ready. You're not ready, and get close to God. When He got your heart, He don't give you the desires of your heart.
He can't give you what you ain't ready for.
Because it means you can't always be right.
They pointed out
You
the
can't
ground,
always do it your way.
That's right.
You know, you have to do it His way. And those ladies, they had kids, and in the I guess the worldly way of thinking, if I get a husband, I'll have somebody help me with bills. No, you got it all wrong. Because you can get a husband that don't work.
Right. Then you got a big kid in the house.
Yes. So it's
And you
a
can't
lot.
do nothing to control him.
Mm-mm. And
He
then
run around. Next thing you know, he bringing another baby home.
you're like, he fine. We've been married 6 years. What?
Wait, whoa. All right, let's get in here.
Bad man.
Problems. Study the proverbs listed below, beside each problem, and supply the answer to the problem. So the first one, Tom has a good job and he makes good wages. He was planning on buying a set of mag wheels to go on his car when his friend Rodney asked him to loan him $50 to buy some groceries for his parents, who had suffered some recent misfortunes. What should Tom do?
You should forego getting those rims and give it to him.
Loan the money for the need because the mag wheels is a want.
Yeah. So I worded it this way. I said, you know, according to the Proverbs, we should give help when we have the power to do it. If we ignore those in need, others will ignore us when we are in need.
That's what it said.
But when we give to the poor, Scripture tells us we will not lack.
But I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
He could have got the rims and the food, cause $50.
Yeah.
Let's get some May Pops.
Go down to Rent-A-Wheel and hook him up, right?
They always $50.
We laugh at that sometimes, the priorities that some people have, because you'll see a $500, Cutlass Supreme from 75 or something, and got $10,000 worth of wheels and rims on it. It's like, the tire's worth way more than that car.
We were just talking about it today, the patients, they have bad teeth and stuff, and you come in and you have your nails done, your lashes, your hair, and it's like,
You can
but
keep
this
teeth
is
covered up.
busted. This is busted.
You can keep teeth covered up.
I guess.
Yeah, you're gonna see
People
nails and
like
hair.
that, people like that, huh?
Oh, that's so funny.
No, now they're I got the mask, but it's like when you get a toothache and then you're mad because their classic line is he doesn't need the money, and it's like stop worrying about this is his job, and if he doesn't, if you don't pay him, he can't give me my check. You got a real problem,
Right.
And it's like the priorities are so twisted. I had to get them to my daughter about that.
Well, not only that, but if you let your teeth go, it'll affect your health.
Everything.
They don't understand that.
Yeah.
It will cause it can cause heart attack. Periodontal disease can cause a lot of stuff because this is the gateway
Yeah.
in more ways than one.
Yeah. So you got a poison tooth draining down your throat all the time. All right, number 2. Christopher has a friend named Bud who is a walking hard luck story. Bud is trying to buy a car, but the bank will not loan him the money without a cosign. So Bud asks Christopher to cosign his loan. Should he?
He can offer to help Bud get to and from work until he saves some money to buy a car without borrowing. That's it. I'm sorry.
So, anybody else? Did y'all read the Proverbs and find
Yeah.
what they said and apply to it, right? So if you agree to back someone else's debt, it will cause pain. That was not a debate. It will cause pain. Because you're going to worry about it. Because if they're going to pay the debt, I mean, even if it's family. I mean, and some people will tell you, don't loan money to family. You can loan it to a stranger, don't loan money to family.
But it's a reason why he can't get it by himself.
Yeah, exactly.
What have you done?
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
And anyone who quickly agrees to cover another's debts lacks understanding. Do not become one of those who must cover the debts of others, so that when you have nothing to pay, they take your bed right out from under you.
It's very clear.
All right, number 3. Richard is a young lawyer who recently been elected state senator. A bill is pending before the Senate, which, if approved, will allow a contractor to build a road across the state on which he will make millions of dollars. Richard does not believe the road is needed, but the contractor has offered him $10,000 to vote in favor of its construction. What should he do?
Express his concerns about the road not being needed.
What did Steve Miller Band say? Go on, take the money and run.
That's what both of them do.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Jerry, what did you say?
Express his concerns about the road not being needed.
I'm not, it's not good.
I wouldn't do it. I about $10,000.
Yeah, it's up for vote, so, I mean, he can express his concern, but then they're gonna say, what's your vote, yes or no?
No. No.
So, yeah, I put down here, wealth gotten by evil or deceptive means will not last. It's better to have a little with righteousness than to have great revenue and be wrong. Gaining treasure by a lying tongue is vanity, and better is the poor walking in righteousness than those who are perverse, even though they are rich.
A lot of that going on.
Yeah, I'm starting to say you probably see a lot of that. I mean, y'all, we probably all know people that got lots of money, but I wouldn't want to live their life. They just got too much going on, too much drama, too many lies they're trying to remember they told.
You look how like when you said that Kanye West, he just seems like a troubled person. All that money, and you just,
You know, I'm not a big follower of the rap industry, right? But I've heard, you know, many people of color talk about, you know, there's a before Kanye and an after Kanye. He was doing good, and he seemed to be
So
have his mind right,
So you touched the Kardashians.
and then he got in touch with the Kardashians, and he lost his mind. And it's like,
Everybody that I know that have dated one of them has gone cuckoo.
yeah, that basketball player, he lost his
Yeah, he
mind.
went crazy.
What? So I don't know what the deal is there.
what do you, I mean, I just know him and Kim, but what do you mean lost their mind?
Lamar Odom overdosed. He tried to kill himself.
Why? Because they broke up?
He was dating one of the girls.
Everyone that go back and look at the history, just look at the Kardashian history.
And look at the dad of the family.
I know.
Look at the kid of the family.
Right.
And they say,
He's not there.
she's so beautiful. Really? Because he wasn't even a nice looking man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, number 4. Judy got mad at Rachel. That kind of stuff don't ever happen. Judy got mad at Rachel. Yesterday, she learned a juicy bit of gossip about Rachel, which she wants to tell her friends. But if she does, it will destroy Rachel's reputation. Should she tell him?
No.
No.
Snitches get stitches.
Mhm.
Did y'all hear that?
Mhm. But ever since we had that, just what the little bit of stuff on gossip, I have to remind myself, you know, even when it comes to talking about my stuff, just remind myself, okay, that's God, you're gossiping, even if it's your business, it's your gossip.
It's a fine line. Gossip. Gossip is a real fine line.
It's very easy. I agree. It's very easy. You can be talking with somebody, sharing something because you have concern for the person, and the next thing you know, it's done moved into gossip. But it started with good intention. You just have to be careful.
Yeah.
Why are you saying what you're saying? And is it really in their best interest? Do you really are you really caring about them when you say this, you know?
She was trying to get revenge, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, her intent was not, it was,
I mean, gossiping just.
No, that was flat
that
out
just
gossip what she was
ruins
doing.
relationships,
Yeah.
so I mean, if you're gonna, and then her friends, I mean, as her other group of friends, I'd be worried if you're gonna gossip to me.
Come on.
Y'all gonna gossip
That's what I was gonna say. I heard somebody say this many years ago, and it kind of stuck with me. If you'll talk to me about somebody we both know when they're not around, then I just about guarantee you talking about me with other people when I ain't around.
what's the old dog, bring a bone will carry a bone?
Something like that.
Yeah, something on the line.
So the perverse spread strife and backbiters separate friends. A talebearer reveals secrets. Fire goes out when there is no wood, so strife ends where there is no talebearer. Do it.
Like I said, where we used to work, I would say stuff just to see how far it would get before it got back to me, see how it's going.
Number 5. Kathy's boyfriend has been trying to get her to use drugs, drink beer, smoke marijuana, commit fornication, and other things which she believes is wrong. Run, girl, run!
Mhm.
Since he is popular and handsome and cute, she does not want to quit seeing him. She loves him. What should she do?
You better let it go.
Mhm.
Run.
Distance herself from him because he is a baddie.
There's another popular handsome cute dude out there
Yeah, right. That ain't bringing destruction to life. If you walk with the wise, you will be wise. But if you walk with fools, you will be a fool. Guard your heart. Put away perverseness. Consider your path and let your way be established. Yep. All right. Working hard or hardly working. Read the proverbs listed below and write an essay on the title given above. Working hard or hardly working. Anybody write the essay?
I missed that all the
I
time.
wrote a little something.
Okay.
Working hard or hardly working would determine the comfort of man. To hardly work should shame many, but hard work is a lesson to be taught by lack. Idleness is very deceptive and will cause the couples to be barren.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about how busy, how busy we are, and, all these kind of things. And I said, I heard a really smart man tell me one time, he said, if you're trying to build a business or you're trying to get something done, don't go to somebody that's got plenty of time. Because if they got plenty of time, there's a reason they got plenty of time. It's because they ain't doing nothing.
They idle.
They ain't doing nothing. And so if you want something done, you go find somebody that's doing lots of things. They may be busy, but they get stuff done. And, that really makes a lot of sense. Because, common sense, you would think would tell you, well, you need to find somebody that's got time to do what you're asking them to do.
Right.
But if they got all that free time, there's a reason they got free time. Because they don't want to do nothing in the first place.
Birds of a feather flock together.
All right, fill in the blanks. From the list of proverbs given below, fill in the blanks. All right. The first one, blank is a blank.
Wine is a mocker.
Wine is a mocker. And strong,
Drink.
drink.
Beer.
This is a brawler. And whoever is,
Led astray.
Who?
Led astray.
I put heirs.
I've got deceived thereby. I guess it depends on what translation you're reading from. But yeah, whoever is tricked by it or led astray by it is not wise. Number 2, the blank man's rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his own
Conceit.
conceit. Tell you what, let's make this easier. Let's just go around the table. You got the next one, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and read that one. What you got?
A soft answer turns away wrath, but a grievous word stirs up anger.
Man,
Harsh word. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a lovely woman who is discreet.
Lax discretion.
Lacks.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I don't remember where I saw something recently, and this was people wasn't even in the they wasn't believers, they wasn't in church. This was just street folks, if you will. Out there playing the game, but they were making comments about certain women, the way they carry themselves and the way they act, and how they talk, and it's kind of like, and you expect to be treated differently than the way you act. All right, number 5, you good?
A wise son heeds his father's instructions, but a thing that's supposed to be mocker does not respond to rebuke.
Okay. Yes.
It's like missing
Yeah,
one.
It is
the word
missing.
and dies, it
Yeah.
should be does not.
Yeah.
I didn't proofread this thing for like
Kind of poor. Somebody did do a really good job. All right, number 6. I've got the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls. I'm trying to keep my lines straight here. Is wise. All right, Jerry.
Do not withhold discipline from a child, for if you strike him with a rod, he shall not die. You shall whip him with a rod and deliver his life from Hades.
Mhm. I'm trying to keep you out of hell, boy.
He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city.
Okay.
Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.
Alright. One who turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination.
That's just how it is.
Well, you know, when you get right down to it, God is not obligated to hear anybody's prayer who ain't either asking for salvation, repenting and asking for salvation, or already a believer. So if you're out there living your life, doing your thing, but you ain't asking God to save your soul and you ain't repenting of your sins, He ain't obliged to hear your prayer.
You're just asking for
Now,
something.
many times He does watch out for folks and He takes care of them, and it seems like He's answering their prayer, but He ain't on the hook for that. He can just let you slide.
He ain't on the hook for that.
That's right. All right. For the girls, write a summary of the virtues of a godly woman. We talked about that just a minute ago. Proverbs 31, 19, 18. You want to speak on that a little bit?
I just wrote, a virtuous godly woman does not waste time in things that do not net her with purpose and direction. She makes preparation for her family's future. Her thoughts are for the benefit of her family, and all her actions are above reproach.
Cool. For the boys, write a paragraph describing the difference in living with a wife who is as God would have her to be, and one who cares nothing for the Lord.
Living with a wife who cares nothing for God really brings a man down, and a woman that loves the Lord uplifts her husband.
Right. It's really surprising what a difference a woman can make in a man's life. You know, I've seen some guys that wasn't worth, as they say, but a woman got a hold of them, and next thing you know, he's somebody. You know,
And vice versa.
I mean,
It
flip
is-
that.
it
I mean,
is a two-way
That
street.
woman can also,
yeah, that's true too. That's true too. And you know, when that relationship is not there, at the same time, you know, guy could be top of the world, but then now he, you know, it's like he's got weakness. It's, you know, it's the engine that was powering his locomotive is stopped. You know, he might still be rolling down the tracks, but he's just coasting. He's gonna stop before long, you know.
But it seems kind of, you know, looking at it in a different way. No, I don't think anybody should be your motivation to be a better you.
Mm-hmm.
Be a better you because you want to be with
Right.
or without this person,
Yep.
and together we can be better uses. You know,
Mhm.
but somebody that just, oh, she done left me, or he done left me, now I just don't want to get out of bed. No.
And you know, and while that's true, sometimes it's hard to forget about that and get up and go on with your life. You know, and I mean, I've been through divorce, and I mean, it like killed me. I lost a bunch of weight. I couldn't focus. I was like a zombie at work.
But you,
Couldn't
and as
sleep.
you just said, work. I've been in situations where what made me change my life to this point, I was so upset, just angry enough to kill.
Mm.
That is what the change, but hey, I drove to work. I drove back home.
Praise
I
the Lord,
drove
don't
to
let
work.
nobody get in my way today.
And then when he changed my life, I could walk away from that. It wasn't that I was putting all my eggs in the basket with this person. It was just like shock. How dare you? But why not? When you're not covered by God, you open yourself up for anything. You know, so it. And then I grew up with my kids, so I've always had them. No matter how I might have been feeling, I had to keep on getting up, going. The lights had to be paid.
Ain't no rest for the weary, money don't grow on trees.
That's right.
Alright.
Look at you singing.
Alright, true and false. Now this is lesson 8. True and false. Hopefully I didn't mess these up. Jerry, you missed it. I've had some errors in some of my answers, so.
What?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what happened on that first set.
At first.
I was totally off.
It was off.
Yeah.
So it wasn't you.
Well, it was partly me, but I think what I did is I wrote my answers down in another notebook. I didn't put them in this book.
Oh.
And when I tried to transfer them over, I didn't get them in the right order or something. I don't know. I just somehow, but they were totally jacked up. And I was like,
What?
I know better than this. So I don't know what I did. Anyway, so true, false. I have got them in this order. So starting at number 1. True, true, true,
Wait a minute, slow
true.
down. Hold on. You mean true.
1, 2 is true, 3 is true, 4 is true, 5 is false, 6 is true, 7 is true, 8 is false, 9 is true,
It's true?
and 10 is true. So, got a question on 9. Solomon thought that acting like a child during one's youthful days was foolishness and advised a young man to grow up. So, I said true.
I guess I said false.
I said false too.
His advice to the young was
Yeah.
enjoy your youth.
Yeah.
Enjoy so young man in your youth.
So that's true.
Let your heart pure in the days of your youth.
That's the reason I said it too, because it's enjoy your youth. But know that the decisions you make,
Right.
you're gonna have to deal with
Yeah.
them.
Well, and that's, I guess, so acting like a child in one's youthful days was foolishness and advised a young man to grow up. So, yeah, enjoy your youth, you know, there in that 4th paragraph down. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. And then he goes on, remember that God will hold you accountable for the activities of your youth. For all these, God will bring you into judgment. So that to me, I guess, spoke to me to say, it's okay to have fun and enjoy life, but don't act foolish, you know, because you're gonna pay for that.
If this was on a test, I mean, would it be true or false? 'Cause
I could see the argument either way, you know, because he does encourage to, you know, to enjoy
Get
your
loose.
youth.
Yeah.
Don't live so tight, man. Loosen your collar up. There's enough stress in this world. You don't need to add to it. All right. Applying the lesson. Jonathan.
Well, 10.
10.
Oh.
9. Are we going with true or false? What are we doing with 9? 9. We going true?
Yeah.
I said true, but some of y'all
The
had false.
teacher, the one that makes the test. Sure.
Well, you know,
Except for 10, I put false because
I did.
You said 10 is true?
no false.
Okay, yeah, that's false.
Wait, 10 is
so
false?
you did say false.
Mhm, on team.
I think I had false, and I changed it to true.
All right. Applying the lesson. Number 1, Jonathan Philgas was just elected senator last week and is gloating about his recent victory. What does Ecclesiastes 4:13-16 have to say to him? And do you see how it might say something about popularity in general?
Both meaningless in this world.
I mean, you popular now, there's always somebody come behind you.
So I wrote here, it's better to be poor and wise than to be old and foolish and unteachable.
Better to be poor.
And that, I just got that from the Ecclesiastes section. You may find yourself on top now, but in time you will be gone and another will take your place and they won't celebrate you.
And they won't remember.
So you might be popular at the moment,
What time does that break start? 6:30, right?
Seven.
You too young not to remember.
Alright, number 2. Junior was converted last month. He vowed to give his life to God. 2 weeks later, he wasn't even attending worship services. Last week, he was restored, but I noticed that he wasn't present for today's service. Read Ecclesiastes 5:1-7 and advise Junior about the danger of his conduct.
Fulfill your vows.
Vows too quickly that you can't follow through on.
Explain to Junior that it is not wise to enter a covenant with God and not be serious. Don't play.
Oh yeah, don't play with God.
Don't play.
Be careful what claims you make. It's better to not make a claim than to make a claim and then not live up to it. Number 3. Shang Xu lives in a country controlled by a strong monarch who is anything but a righteous man. Lately, Shang Xu has been discussing the monarch's failures with his friends. What does Ecclesiastes 10:20 say about Shang Xu's conduct?
Keep your thoughts to yourself. Don't say.
Say anything. Don't
Go
gossip.
back in.
Mm-hmm.
Do not speak evil about those in leadership over you or of those who have more than you. It will seem that the birds will carry your voice and go tell the matter. Whatever you say, it's going to get to them. But, that really, we just come through this election, and that probably should apply here in the good old United States in 2022, right?
Everywhere. A lot of this, turn on the TV.
And what kills me a lot of times is people talking all this garbage about elected officials, and they don't even vote. Well, you want to put them down, you want to gripe about how they're acting, then vote.
Here's the
Express your
classic line.
opinion.
My vote don't count. What?
You
don't even sound-
No, it counts either way. You use it or you don't. It counts.
Unwise.
All right, number 5. Richard just graduated from college and has.
Four.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Linda is a sophomore at the State University. Lately, she has been dating a senior who takes her to wild parties where every kind of immorality is considered acceptable conduct. Linda is beginning to enjoy these parties as she becomes a more active participant in them. What does Ecclesiastes 11:9-10 tell her?
You will be judged for everything you do, young and old.
Enjoying the lust of her eyes has consequences.
It starts out, girl.
You in danger.
Follow your heart and go after the things you want, but knowing God will bring all things into judgment. Remove sorrow from your heart and put evil away from you. Number 5. Richard just graduated from college and has been given a good job. Being very ambitious, Richard takes work home with him each night and works on weekends. In so doing, he is neglecting his family. What does Ecclesiastes 2:9, chapter 2 and chapter 9 tell him about how he should live?
He should not neglect his family to store riches that he won't enjoy.
Enjoy family and friends while you can, because all that toiling is meaningless under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you work for will go to somebody else.
Yeah, right. That's,
Yeah.
that was one of Solomon's frustrations. Like, I spend all my labor and effort and build all this beautiful stuff and accomplish all these things, and then I'm gonna die, and somebody else that didn't do nothing to do it is gonna get it.
And it's gonna squander.
Yeah, probably. Because they don't respect it because they didn't have to do anything to get it.
That's correct.
Write a short commentary on one of these passages and cite a practical situation to demonstrate the meaning of that passage. Anybody got one?
I did Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. It said, there is a specific time for a specific event, which can't be altered for one's own desires. There is purpose for each action. 2. Solomon advised men to live a life that is God-centered. Death will come to the wise and the unwise. However, everlasting life will only be afforded to the wise man of God who honored the laws.
I'm fine with it. I'll read hers if I can read.
17 and 14. Life will have ups and downs. Be,
You need glasses.
no, that's not it.
He needs an interpreter.
You're right, that part. You are up, and when you are down, know that he is the same God, and he is still in charge in good and bad times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of goes along with Job last week. You know, Job was up, Job was down. And everybody turned their back on him. You know, you must have done something wrong to deserve all this. You know, you gotta be sinning somewhere. You know, well, I ain't done nothing. I've done everything God asked me to do. I've been living right. You know, there's no reason why this should be happening. But, you know, he even told his wife, he said, you know, we're very quick to accept the good things that come from God. But then we don't want to receive anything that causes us any pain or discomfort. He said, should we not accept both if they come from God? And let God's name be praised. You know, and that's a hard thing to say. And even harder to do. You know, and to mean it. You know. Woo, Lord. I need you to come on. I know when we go down, it's so we can go back up, but woo, I'm ready to head back up, you know.
When my sister was up, she has a friend, and they always go on cruises, and you know what kind of stuff go on cruises.
I don't know what kind of stuff.
All kind of stuff that shouldn't, but you can go on a cruise and it still, you know,
Yeah.
represent God. And so, one time she said, God just don't want me to have no fun. And I said, Gwen, did you ask him about one of his cruise? Because the cruise, she wasn't going to represent God, because her friend was not a church girl. I mean, she goes to church because mom and them told us to go, but so you know that you're not going on this cruise for godly mission work. You're going to have it almost like 1 foot.
Let me take my
in the
Christian
world.
stuff off and I'm gonna go on the cruise.
Yeah. And she got mad, and she said it's like, and every time she went on these cruises, she went all the time, but she would wait up to the last minute. We would be at her mailbox to put money in the bank so she could get some money on the cruise, and it's like she would just in her mind, she thought that God was punishing her. No, you never asked him. And the hardest part is when you ask him and then understanding when he tell us no, to understand and accept no. And she forever did that.
Yeah. So that brings up, you know, how does God answer our prayers? You know, how many different ways can God answer your prayer?
Many.
I mean,
I got two.
you can think two at least, right? Yes and no.
Many. I think many
And then he
different
can also
ways.
tell you to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's three.
Yeah.
Alright.
He can answer, and I love this, the analogy of the needing a car.
Mhm.
And you praying for a car, praying for a car, praying for a car. And he puts a bus stop at your house.
Mhm.
He didn't answer my prayers, but he did actually answer your prayer based on what he knows
I
what the
needed
future holds.
transportation.
So 2 months later, you lose your job.
Mhm. Now you ain't got no car payment.
You don't have a car payment, but you have a bus.
Right.
So that, or it can send somebody like this one here walking
Mhm.
to give you a ride. So many different ways that he can
Yeah.
answer your prayer, but we miss it because it doesn't come packaged the way we wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted a car,
Oh yeah.
not the bus.
God,
The
you
car.
didn't answer my prayer. Whoa. Let's examine that.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I like to do it in 4 ways. So it's no.
Okay, write that down. Well, let me write that.
Yeah.
The ways that God can answer our prayers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he can say no. I'm not going to answer that
Wait
prayer.
a minute, I don't write that fast.
But it's just 4 words really, and then you can summarize what they mean. But
Wait a minute, answer our prayer. Okay.
or he can say slow.
1, no. 2, slow.
In other words, he's going to answer it, just not right now. He's just going to have to wait for it.
Or wait. Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is grow.
Grow. Okay.
He's going to answer it,
When you,
but he's got to change you so he can give you that and you won't lose it.
I like
You
that.
got to grow.
Okay.
And then lastly is go, because he's answering that prayer.
Okay.
No, slow, grow, and go.
No, slow, grow, go.
And I didn't come up with that, I heard somebody else teach that, but I thought, I really like that.
Yeah, I do too, yeah.
Okay. So that takes us to lesson 9. Student activities. Can you be the counselor?
Yeah.
Can you tell somebody what to do? Oh, you better know.
I can, but they may not like the tone.
Joan was raised in a low-income family which endured many hardships. Recently, she's begun to date a young lawyer who's practically guaranteed to be rich by his occupation. Joan likes the prospect of being rich and is pushing the young man to marry her. What's wrong with this?
End in disaster.
She wouldn't be married for love, but for the promise of money.
Love cannot be forced or rushed. She should trust God to bring him around if he is what God has planned for her. And that's kind of one of those things, a lot of times that's probably God's answers to some of those women that are looking for a husband. He's answering grow. I got a husband, he's prepared over here, but you ain't ready for him. I can't give him to him because you'll ruin him. But if you'll grow, if you'll let me change you to prepare you to be the woman that I'm preparing for him, then I can put y'all together.
And not only that, the package. I told this lady, I said, so if he sends you somebody, she's got to be like 5'9". If he sends you somebody that's 5'2", I mean, would you be okay with that? She was like, hey. Yeah, so sometimes the package, people they have their mind set on something specific, and that's where you mess up.
They can have a hard-working man sitting right next to them,
Mm-hmm.
in love with them,
Oh yeah.
but they want this one out here that ain't doing nothing, and
I
ain't thinking about it.
always love I want a bad boy. No, you don't.
Till you get it.
No, you don't. You want the excitement, you want the adrenaline rush,
Bad boy
but you
make
don't
you
want a
catch
bad boy.
case.
Because you're gonna be turning around, whining and crying and complaining about how he's treating you and how you
He
ain't
ain't
doing
never at
this.
home.
Yeah, so.
He taking my car.
Got you off at work.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Let me pick you up.
All right, number 2, James and Yvonne began dating 2 months ago and began going steady a week later. Yvonne moved into James's apartment since they planned to get married sometime later. Is this the right kind of love on which to build a marriage?
No.
Compare Solomon's attraction to the Shulamite maiden in the Song of Solomon. So what'd y'all say?
No.
Just no. That's just no.
Yeah.
That's it. Just
You've been
no.
known 2 months. but you don't know him.
You don't even know this person. 2
You gonna
months
get married sometime later? I mean, that reminds me of,
of our friend.
yeah, so when I started working at SCI, I came, I guess a few months after you, but met this girl, we were in the same department. We worked together for a little while, so then Eric and I started dating. And I guess we had got to year 2 or something, and she was like, are y'all talking about marriage? I said, well, we're not really talking about it, we're just, we've been through stuff before, so we're just kind of dating. I said, so what about you? 'Cause I knew she was dating somebody. So, but when I started working there, she had been dating this dude like 4 or 5 years. I'm like, you ain't even thinking about it yet? And they were living together and all this
That's
stuff.
You didn't have to, yeah.
He got everything needed.
So, earlier this year I turned 40 and she couldn't come to the restaurant, but she came to the house like a week or 2 later. She's like, hey, I couldn't come then, I just want to stop and see you, say happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. I said, hi, little boy. I'm like, well, we're separated. I'm like, because they were still living together, but they were up in Nashville. And, she was like, I just don't think he's going to do anything, this, that. I'm like, y'all been together like 15 years.
20 years.
And I'm like, well, of course, like, I talk, and see this, and she messed up because we used to talk about kids all the time. And I used to ask her,
Are you gonna have?
When you gonna have babies, you know? She said, she prayed to God that she didn't wanna have kids until she got married. I said, well, now here you are. You 41,
Yeah,
unmarried, no kids. I'm like,
yeah.
as y'all telling her and stuff, I'm like, you gotta,
It's just a lot of bad to that.
you're just not gonna, I said, you gotta make the marriage part a requirement, you know? I was
Right.
telling her all this stuff. And she's like, I wish you would tell me that years ago. I said, I did. But because,
Multiple times.
because I was young in my relationship with him, like we hadn't been together
Yeah, you
very
know what you
long.
was talking about.
Yeah, I was stupid. I'm like, okay. So,
When I met Steve, that was I was done with all that, giving out milk that you ain't paid for. And he's not wasn't my barber, he is now, but the barber was out of town, so he had to cut it. And he was telling me, you know, everything that he had been going through with Jennifer, and he walked me out to my car, and I said, maybe if you focus more on God, then you won't have time to think about how lonely you are. But I was in no uncertain terms, I'm not doing nothing, I can take me to dinner or do whatever. So we talked on the phone for like 6 months before he even asked me to go out. And but he was seeing, one of the things I teach the young ladies, listen to what a man is saying, what his intentions are. He would say little things about the future, and I was used to people saying things, you know, sometimes we can tell people too much and then they try to emulate something.
Yeah.
So I was used to people saying what they thought they needed to get close to me. So he would say stuff. So February 28th of 2017, he asked me out. And I had just done a single Dating That Pleases God conference. And then we went out March 3rd. April 28th, he asked me to marry him. But I was like, I am not giving up anything. I don't care. I don't need you. And number 2, I'm requiring premarital counseling because I'm not playing. I'm too old.
Right.
And we already had set the date and started making plans. And he told Jordan, he said, I don't even know if she's a man or a woman, but I know I love her. Because I was serious. I had been mishandled so much, and I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I get you told, but I don't just go around being mean to people. So I just felt like I'm gonna do something different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it God's
Yeah.
way, and it's not an option. So if that's what your intent is, don't waste it on me, because I can take me out to eat. I can take me to the movies. I can do all of these things. I don't need you for that. So it's really setting the standards and making them walk the line. And I was at that point in my life. The standard was this right here, and it's not negotiable.
Yep. Yep.
He got the message.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you. Alright, so I had put down here, people should focus on getting to know one another as the basis of love on which to build a marriage, instead of focusing on what pleasures and benefits they can get from one another as the basis.
Right.
Number 3, Ronald and Sharon got married last week. Sharon believes that sex is dirty and only for reproductive purposes. Does the Bible say anything about her attitude?
And Sharon crazy. Sharon.
We're just gonna tell it like it is. Sharon.
Yeah.
somebody didn't have a conversation before they got married.
Right.
No, they might have, but you know how people do. Once
Switch
I
it up
get
on
you, I don't have to.
Yeah.
But now if you honoring God, you know you out of line.
Right, because it says that. It is the duty or role of the husband and wife to come together for their mutual pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Your body don't belong to you anymore.
No.
And it's joint ownership.
Right.
Alright. Thought questions. List are the advantages. That's what mine reads.
Yes, I'm the advantage.
List advantages of saving oneself sexually for marriage. What advantages y'all? Come on, y'all had to think of something.
List the advantage of saving oneself sexually
Well,
for marriage.
your value is not diminished. Like, if you have sex before, it's like you're saying, like, I already got it now, you know.
Right.
Well,
Well, you can't tell if a person is with you for you. And my thing is I and again I try to teach this. you have to build it on something solid, because when you're no longer able to, because Viagra wasn't put on the market for one man. We're gonna put a bunch of them. And that KY deal wasn't put on the market for one woman. It's on a bunch of them. So when you no longer have that, what have you built it on? Can you have a conversation and be friends? Can you go to the movies and be okay that the intimacy is no longer a factor?
Right.
If you build it on the right foundation, it'll last.
Well, it's a different kind of intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you've gotta have mental and emotional intimacy as well as the physical.
Yeah, and when the physical don't, the Viagra don't work.
When the physical has fizzled.
That's right. What do you have?
Right.
Yeah.
So I put down here, it builds a stronger love relationship based on character instead of on the physical, which decays.
Mhm.
It purifies the sexual relationship. It it helps reveal the truer, deeper motives. And it shows faithfulness to God, or obedience to God.
Have you ever heard of Aaron Hall? He had this song years ago. It was "I Miss You." You know the song, and in it kind of like confuses you
I think
even thinking
I-
back on it. But the lady was hurt in a wheelchair, and as she got older, see, you have to still be able to look at them like they're young and love them, even when they change. The face
Right.
changes, things start to sag
Mhm.
more. The waistband stretches.
Yeah.
You have to, already be in love, so in love with them that those things don't matter.
Right.
The physical part of it.
Right. I heard a story one time. There was an old couple, and this old man was walking this old lady around, and she was just, she wasn't being real friendly, and on occasion she'd look at him funny and go, "Where are you taking me?" And but somebody came up to him and said, "Sir, what are you?" He said, "Well, this is my wife." He said, "And she talks to you like that?" I said, "Well, why do you, it's like she don't even love you." And he said, "But I love her." She had gotten dementia. He said, the person seeing him said, "She don't even know who you are. Just go on and live your life." And he said, "She is my wife."
I know
He said,
she is.
I made a decision a long time ago. He said, "She may not know who I am, but I know who she is. And until that time comes, this is what I'm gonna do." But that kind of commitment today seems to be rare.
It is.
All right. Number 2, what are the dangers of premarital sexual relationships?
Confusing love with lust.
They ain't the same.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Encountering spiritual demons from your partner
Mhm.
that will go with you to your next relationship, and your next relationship, your
That's
next.
good.
And it's like a STD. You get that demon and he latches onto you because you latched onto them, and now you go somewhere else and he's riding with you, and you latch onto somebody else. Now they latched onto them
It
too.
wasn't even your demon.
Right.
It wasn't even yours.
So yeah, I put here it's a violation or an unfaithfulness to God. Relationships based on sex instead of true love, and you may be taking advantage of, or you may be taking advantage of another. It's manipulation, deception. Number 3, write a short commentary on Song of Solomon 2 and 7. Compare the different translations of it. Read it with and without the italicized words. Compare marginal readings, etc. as part of your research.
I didn't get that. I was kind of just confused. Can you do it?
I think Shalisha's got it here. What does it say?
Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. So I would put, don't get people worked up for things that you aren't ready for.
Don't be a tease.
It's before, it's before time. And now you've unleashed something that either you're not ready for, they're not ready for, and there's consequences to it. It's
Chase, cause you said no, but he thought you meant yes. That's what-
I said this, like I always say, I said this for the last 20 years. Women nowadays want to dress like their daughters. Back when we were growing up, the mothers made their daughters dress like them. It's just a big flip flop.
Right.
When I was watching this thing, this guy was talking about how mothers should make their daughters wear proper clothing. I don't care what's in style or whatever. He said you go out and they got half their cheeks hanging out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And what is a man supposed to do? He said, I don't know if your daughter's 14 or 25,
Right.
the way you got her dressed. He said, but then you want to get mad at me and call the police on me, and you know, but I don't know how old she is, you know, so you need to do your part, and I'll do my part.
Right.
Makes sense.
See, I had mixed emotions, cause I know he's a dog and he is a pedophile, R. Kelly. But I have one natural daughter and then I got some new daughters. You do dress them appropriately, so no one get confused. And I had given Kelsey this, before I got these locks, this ponytail I bought. And it made her look older than her age. And if there's a cute top that's a crop top, she has to wear a camisole underneath. Because I have an obligation to protect you. And she had that shirt on, and the shirt, I told her, if you wear this, you have to have on a camisole underneath. But where my mom used to stay across the street, she was over there. She said, oh, I'm gonna keep my jacket on. She was over there. I looked out the window and I said, Kelsey, get over here. And she came. She knew she wasn't supposed to have that jacket on.
Busted.
And she had that ponytail on, and she was just walking around in front of George and Joseph and just being fat. So she came back across the street with her jacket on. I said, didn't I tell you? So when we got home, I told Steve, and Steve was talking to her. He tore her butt up. That's probably one of her last whoopings. Now we just take ourselves on that kid. But when it was like, she was like, I don't see the big deal. It's a reason. It's a reason. That's why these girls are coming up missing. We don't let her walk the neighborhood, do any of that.
You can't afford
It's a
to.
reason.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But
See R. Kelly comment.
Yeah, I was-
Them parents was putting their daughters up there on stage
Yeah,
with, and that
yeah.
goes back to what I was saying.
Now they wanna tell
feed,
them.
Yeah, they feed, his money is gone.
yeah, and he crying with Gayle King and stuff. But I'm like,
Both parties are wrong.
yeah.
I heard one mom put it this way. She said, I told my daughter when she, started getting toward teen, even before that, but she said, especially then when she started really picking her own clothes and that kind of stuff, I said, if you don't want a boy to touch it, then you shouldn't see it. That's a pretty good rule,
Mhm.
If you're uncomfortable with him touching that butt cheek, then it shouldn't be out.
I took her to the dealers to get her dressed for school, and I'm like, oh my God. It was like, first of all, she wanted a $200-some dress. I'm like, no, I only plan to spend.
You got a $200-something job?
Exactly. So the lady was like, well, I guess she thought she was helping me. I told her I don't have one, but I'm not spending $200 and then she want a dress for something else. I spend $298 for everything, shoes, jewelry, and all that. And the dress she wanted had a split up here. I propped my arm up on her. I'd already showed her the dress. I propped my arm up like a man would do and would just stand there waiting. She said, aren't you gonna help me? And I said, no, we were standing there arguing back there. I said, I'm not. I told you what was appropriate, what I'm spending. That's it. So I'll wait over here for you. I got on the phone talking to Steve. But it's like,
Let me tell you about your daughter.
that's what I said. I said, let me tell you. And he said, that's better you than me. But she understands me now.
Yeah.
Initially, she probably was like, oh, and she told me, she said, she thought I was mean, but I got a job to do. God is gonna hold me accountable if I, even my daughter, when she would have contour pants when she was a teenager, I tear them on up and throw them in the garbage. And she was like, have you seen my jeans?
They had a big old rip in them.
I said, I tell her, and then throw them in the garbage before I got sick. Because these are your precious princesses,
Yep.
and you have to protect them from everything and everybody.
Yep. And it's sad, but it's break time.
Yeah.
back to 7, we're gonna have to blaze a trail now, we took a little time on it,
That one? Oh.
yeah.
We ain't finished the last two. We
Oh.
good.
That's right, we did.
Those last four, actually.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
all good.
Where did we get to? Song and Sauce. Okay, I done put my book away and everything. Those are the last 3 true and false. Alright, so I got true, false, false.
I got false,
True, true, false, true.
Alright, what's the last one say? We got a argument, disagreement?
You teacher.
We good.
The primary message is put Christ love church.
And, you could argue that it's, well, no, it's talking about some shepherd boy and some little girl that liking one another, but I think it was some, what do you call that, an allegory, of how Christ loves the church. So anyway, so I got true, false, false.
Works for me.
Alright, now back to lesson 7.
Listen, who?
Seven.
Seven.
Gotta go over.
Oh, yeah, who?
Yeah, we'll do the
Proverbs.
homework. There you
I
go.
gotta teach it, now that y'all done the homework. Alright, Book of Proverbs is a collection of the writings of several men rather than the work of one individual. Solomon was a major contributor, but not the one who compiled the book as it is today. As late as the reign of Hezekiah, which was 715 to 687 BC, the scribes collected some of Solomon's proverbs and put them into the collection, and you can read that in Proverbs 25:1. Not all the contributors were even Jews. Some were not Jews. Lemuel was the king of a non-Jewish territory, and he wrote Proverbs 31. Someone named Agur wrote Proverbs 30. And a group who were known as the wise wrote Proverbs 22, some of those verses, Proverbs 24, and Proverbs 24, 23 to 34. It seems sometime in the reign of Hezekiah or just after that this book was compiled. The book is designed, quote, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, just judgment, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, and to the young man knowledge and discretion. That's in Proverbs chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. The book is a gold mine of good counsel for right living on many topics, including such things as controlling one's anger, suretyship, or being a co-signer for somebody, controlling one's tongue, court manners, how to act among rulers and stuff, friendship, morality, and industriousness. Yes.
So on the court matters, do you think it's a sin to, like, if a Christian needs to go to court to sue somebody or to go in civil claim, something like that, do you think that's a sin?
We've been instructed to live according to the laws of the land so long as they don't violate the laws of God. Now, somebody could say, well, let's push that button all the way. We're supposed to forgive everything. Okay, yeah, you could say that's true. But at the same time, I don't think God wants us to be a doormat either. And so if somebody takes advantage of us or does something that, brings harm to us or our family, I don't think there's a problem with that restitution happening. So the bottom line is, I think it comes down to, why are you doing it? Somebody handed you a hot cup of coffee and you spilled it on yourself, and you decide you're gonna sue them because they gave you a hot cup of coffee that you burned yourself with, and you're suing for millions of dollars. You didn't even get a blister, you just got a red spot on your skin. Why are you suing? You just trying to get rich off of somebody, right? What's your motivation? So if your motivation is not right, then you probably need to not do it.
So what would be a right motivation for taking somebody to court for monetary gain? Because anytime you go to court, it's about monetary anyway. So what would be the right?
You're driving down the interstate taking your kids to the beach for vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Truck Driver might have been driving too long, but his log seems okay, but there was alcohol on his breath. They hit you in the back end. Nobody died, but it destroyed your car, so now you got no transportation. All y'all had to go to the hospital, get checked out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. should you get any restitution out of that, or should you just let it go?
I got insurance and they took care of it, replaced the car.
But you gonna pay, your insurance gonna go up.
Well, even if it's at no fault of mine,
Now, yeah, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a, they had to pay. So now, everybody's premiums kinda gonna go up because they had to pay out.
And on that,
Like a lot of these places where there's hurricanes come through regularly, some of these places, they won't even insure properties anymore. My cousin, he's got a warehouse that he's got, they won't insure it anymore. He had to go find another insurance company because they said, well, hey, we're pulling out of that area, we're not gonna insure anything. And he didn't do anything wrong, you know?
and two, the kids could be injured later on in life. You just never know. You know, just cause you're not showing it right now, doesn't mean that's what happened to them. We got rear end, it was like everything was fine.
Yeah.
Go to the doctor, nah, I'm good. And a couple years later, her back is hurt. Just probably from that accident.
And so in your case, in the scenario we were just talking about, you might be, you're perfectly right, that, hey, insurance gonna replace my vehicle, nobody was hurt, so we're all good, so there's no real reason to sue. But now let's switch it up just a little bit. Your leased one died. Everybody else is okay, but somehow littlest one got shook around, ejected through a windshield, whatever, and died. Now, what do? Still just let it go? Because now not only have you lost a child and your vehicle, insurance gonna replace the vehicle, they can't replace your child. And you're gonna have to pay for the funeral and, you know, all the things associated with that. To me, I can't say that there's scripture and verse for this, but I don't see God having a problem with you being restored in some way, some of the stuff that you're gonna be losing. You can't be given another child. I mean, what value do you put on that? So there's no, well, it's okay to sue for this amount. Well, how do you pay for that life? You can't pay for that life.
right?
But you can pay for the funeral, you can pay for all the hospital bills, you can pay for another vehicle, you know, et cetera, because you were in the wrong. You should have been on the road in the first place,
True.
drinking. And so, you know, but it all comes down to your motivation. Because I've seen people, somebody just barely bump them in the rear end. Next thing you know, they're wearing a neck brace, they're walking with a limp,
Oh
they
my
got the
gosh.
cane, and they suing for millions of dollars because it was an opportunity. I got hit. So I'm gonna get rich off of this. I ain't gonna have to work another day in my life. Wrong motivation.
I bumped an elderly man. I bumped him.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted Huntsville Police Department to call the ambulance. And I just got, last week, noticed I got an email from USAA talking about it. And I was like, this is an example of fraud and abuse because the front of that Beetle has clear coat that's peeling. It's red. His car was gray. There wasn't even paint transference. But he got out of the car and was holding his neck and he was trying to tattle on me because I said, let's pull over. We were right in the way. I said, let's pull over here and exchange information. That's the right thing to do. So he tells 911, she trying to get me to move the car. And the lady said, was anybody hurt? They said, no. She said, well, then move. So they wouldn't bring an ambulance. They sent the fire truck and got over there and they were looking like at his car and at mine because it was obviously.
It's like,
And he said, and they said, we're not calling the ambulance. So he drove himself to the hospital. And so USAA told me, well, we can't waive your deductible. I don't care. The point is this is fraud because there's no transference on his car or mine. It should have been if I hit him, but you know, you turn going on the parkway and he stopped and I just
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
But he got out holding his neck and I was praying for him. And I said, Lord, this is just awful.
Lord, don't kill him even though he's being ignorant.
He was, and the lady got out. You know, women, we don't want to lie with you. She got out and they said, are you okay? And she went like that. Because she didn't want to lie. And they said, well, how are you going to get your car? He said, she can drive. But they told him no. They were not going to call an ambulance. I said, oh my God. And this was last week.
Yeah. I'm glad everybody's okay. Let me run on through this. Since one of the aims of the book is to give knowledge and prudence to the youth, it should be particularly useful to this age group, people that are considered young people. Studying the book of Proverbs, it's helpful to know that it is written in the style of Hebrew poetry with an emphasis on parallelism. We talked about parallelism last week, mainly using antithetical, but there's also some synonymous and synthetic. It's also helpful to know that the book is a collection of disjointed maxims. Y'all know what a maxim is? I had to look it up. I kind of knew, but to get the real definition, it's a short, pithy statement expressing a general truth or rule of conduct. Pithy means concise and
Spell
forceful.
pithy, please.
P-I-T-H-Y, pithy. I know it sounds funny, doesn't it? But it's
Pithy.
right. But it means concise and forcefully expressive. So to change that word out, a short or concise and forcefully expressive statement expressing a general truth or rule of conduct. So because of this, Proverbs reads somewhat like a dictionary. The subject changes frequently. However, the separate maxims are supremely valuable and should be accepted as truth, committed to memory, and put into practice. Proverbs 3:13 says, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding." 14, "For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that thou canst desire are not to be compared to her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her." This is speaking of wisdom, which is a book of wisdom. Wisdom does not begin in secular education, but in the fear of the Lord, Proverbs 9 and 10. So that kind of concludes lesson 7. So we'll jump over to lesson 8. We're down to 28 minutes.
You got plenty of time to do books.
Book of Ecclesiastes. Solomon is believed to be the author of this book. In this book, he wrestles with life because he sees it to be full of vanity. I don't know about y'all, but I have seen plenty of vanity myself. Solomon noted that generations of men come and go, but the earth remains. No one remembers a person very long after they are dead. And people today do what their ancestors did. They're born, they grow up, they grow old, and then they die. So he says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Solomon decided to set out to discover what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their life. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 3. In his search, he considered several things. One is pleasure. So Ecclesiastes 2, verses 1 through 11. Solomon turned to wine and women and song. He built houses and vineyards and gardens and parks and orchards and ponds. He had male and female slaves. He had silver and gold in abundance. Ecclesiastes 2 and 10, the first part of that verse says, "Whatsoever my eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy." He learned that the eye is not satisfied with seeing. Ecclesiastes 1:8 says, "All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing." He concluded the quest for happiness in pleasures as the supreme goal in life was vanity. Ecclesiastes 2:11. It says, "Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun." So that was pleasure. He also looked at wisdom. Ecclesiastes 2:12 through 17. Like the Athenians who lived, quote, to tell or hear some new thing, you can see that in Acts 17:21. Solomon searched for wisdom as the goal in life. He quickly learned that the wise man has great advantages over the foolish man in this life. However, this satisfaction, or the satisfaction of this discovery was shattered when he perceived that a single event, which is death, happens to both the wise and the foolish. Ecclesiastes 2:16 says, "For there is no remembrance of the wise more than the fool forever. Seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? Just as the fool." He concluded that the quest for wisdom as the supreme goal in life is also vanity. He then turned to labor, Ecclesiastes 2:18-23, or work. Solomon buried himself in his work, and he neglected his family and friends just as people do today when they bury themselves in their work. He was shocked into reality when he observed that everything which came as the fruit of his labor must be left to his descendants. Ecclesiastes 2:18 says, Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. 19. And who knows whether he shall be wise or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and whereof I have shewed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. So again, he concluded that the quest for the fruit of labor as the supreme goal in life is also vanity. So having discovered the vanity of these goals in life, Solomon made some suggestions about how to live in this life. He advised that one should enjoy the fruit of his labor each day of his life. Ecclesiastes 2:24. There's nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. He observed there is a season for every activity under the sun. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Verse 1 says, To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. He went on and advised on the value of companionship in life. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 says, Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falls, for he has not another to help him get up. Again, if two lie together, they shall have heat, but how can one be warm alone? Verse 12, And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. He also discussed many other subjects, as submission to the king, or how to live among moral injustice, or the temporary nature of popularity, or the vanity of riches, or the foolishness of rash vows. In all of these things, Solomon did not neglect the youth and gave them some advice. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 9, the first part says, Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart and in the sight of thine eyes. But verse B, or part B of that verse says, But thou know that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. In verse 10, Therefore remove sorrow from your heart, and put away evil from your flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. So that goes back to that number 9, it's false. Right there it says, childhood and youth are vanity, foolishness. Ecclesiastes 12, I knew I saw it somewhere. Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now the Creator, thy Creator.
You said true.
Well, I don't remember whichever one it
Oh.
was. Yeah.
I had
It's
false, you
foolishness.
said true.
Yeah, I got you.
Whatever I said was correct, because that right there was where it came from. Sorry. If I got it backwards, I'm sorry. Ecclesiastes 12:1 says, Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. So his conclusion, Solomon realized we all face death. Ecclesiastes 12:7 says, Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. So he concluded the most important thing for man to do all of his days on this earth. Verse 13, Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole beauty of man. Verse 14, For God shall bring every work into judgment, and every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So to fear God and keep his commandments is the only goal in life, which cannot be described as vanity of vanities. It has a permanent effect even beyond the grave, because it affects where we'll spend eternity. Centuries from now, what car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, or what clothes I wore will have made no difference. However, whether I feared God and kept his commandments while on the earth will make all the difference in where I live for all eternity. All right. One more. Lesson 9. Song of Solomon. This book was written by King Solomon. It is unique in that it is the only book in the Bible to discuss human love as its relationship to marriage and it celebrates the dignity and purity of human love. It has been learned in recent years that poetry in praise of love is a known genre of literature in the ancient Near East. Because of this, it reminds us of modern music, which largely focuses on love relationships. That statement in the lesson kind of threw me. I don't know about y'all, but it's like modern music. I don't really think modern music really talks about love. It really
does
talks
not.
more about lust.
Lust.
Right?
Mhm.
But anyway, it was in the book. I put it in the notes here. Because of
Which music
sex.
is that?
Do what, man?
I said, which music is that?
Because the sexual relationship and bond between a man and a woman are among the most powerful bonds ever formed, we could expect that God would address it in His revelation. Mankind has swung like a pendulum between an ascetic approach, which believes our normal desires are evil or unclean, and modern society is definitely on the unbridled lust side of that pendulum swing the other way. In this society with the characteristic, So, did that make sense? Ascetic is like, I have to beat myself into subjection, and, I can't have any pleasure because all my desires are evil, and, like, what was her name? Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon.
Sex is dirty, it doesn't matter if it's a husband or a wife, it's just dirty, and all that's evil, it's just evil. So there's the ascetic approach, and then there's kind of like our society today where anything goes, so you got one extreme to the other, So modern society is on that far end, but in a society with that kind of characteristic, young people are in danger of approaching love and sexuality without a biblical foundation. So a study of this book would be helpful prior to contemplating marriage. One of the keys to understanding the book is to understand how the several songs within the book form a unified story. There have been several approaches to this challenge of interpreting the book, basically. Those jump. Okay. The dominant opinion seems to be to see the book as a drama that unfolds the love relationship between a man and a woman. If we look at the book in this way, we must insert stage directions, like a drama on the stage. And every interpreter inserts his own directions without a consensus among scholars. So basically, everybody kind of, well, this is how I see it, well, that's your interpretation. So, one interpreter, H. Eward, which was mentioned in the lesson, suggests there were three main characters in this story. The song tells the story of a young maiden from northern Palestine who was in love with a shepherd boy, but she was taken to Jerusalem where Solomon tried to win her affections. The maiden, while she was in Jerusalem, still thought of her beloved, in spite of Solomon's attempts to win her affections. The young girl in Jerusalem was honored by the maidens of the court who extolled her beauty. She did not think of herself as pretty, though, because she had worked in the vineyards back home and had become quite suntanned. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 5 through 7. That makes sense to y'all? So white folks, we get tan.
We can too.
And so in this case, you can look at a lot of the old sculptures and paintings where women were very plump and round, and if you were in shape, that was a sign that you were poor because you didn't have enough to eat, right? So the being plump and really white was a sign that you were affluent. You had plenty to eat, and you hadn't have to be out in the sun working, right? So she said she didn't feel very pretty because she had to be working in the vineyards and she got tanned. So regardless, Solomon continued to make his advances, and ultimately she rejected him and married her shepherd boyfriend. In more recent years, the poem has been interpreted as a love song between two people. The supposed distinction between the king and the shepherd has been reinterpreted because of studies in the ancient Near East, which shows that the king was frequently compared to a shepherd, which makes sense. He's a shepherd over the people. And David is a prime example of that. There are several important lessons emphasized in this book. Number one, love cannot be forced. So Song of Solomon 2:7 says, "Do not stir up nor awaken my love until it pleases." So Shalisha kind of alluded to that earlier, you know, that a lot of times, and you kind of said it too, you know, teasing, you know, we're trying to stir something up that's not ready to come forth, right? And so you start having these thoughts about, oh, I love him, I love her, I love, and then it starts making you act in a way that you're trying to make that happen, and it ain't ready for it to happen. Either you're not ready to get it, or they're not ready to give it, and it's just, all it's going to do is create a bunch of frustration, and you're either going to act on that frustration and do something you shouldn't do, or you're just going to get depressed because it's not happening.
And
so-
don't comb your hair.
So don't stir up a love that's not ready. Then it says, this seems to be one of the themes, you know, to not stir up that love. This seems to be one of the themes of the book because it is repeated in Song of Solomon 3 and 5 and also in chapter 8, verse 4. The point is that love between two people is very subjective. Subjective. What does that mean? Love between two people is subjective.
Sorry. I thought you guys were gone. We heard you were laughing and stuff.
We had fun class.
I know.
Garage good? Alright, so subjective is like your own opinion. So objective would be like if we all look at something, we all agree, like the flower over there. Any of y'all colorblind? So what color is that flower over there? Okay, we all agree that flower is yellow, right? That's objective because it is yellow. There's no argument it's just a fact, it's yellow. But if we said that flower is 4 inches around, now it's a fact, but sitting here, we might all disagree. Well, I think it's only 2 inches. I think it's 3 inches. You know, that's subjective. That's my opinion. So, and here they're saying the point of this is that love between two people is very subjective. So what's love between two people in one case might not look like love between two people to somebody else.
Okay.
All right, matchmakers try to push people together, but they may or may not click. Yeah, you ever seen that? Oh, you should get with my cousin so-and-so, you know, because you think that they would get along, you know, the similar things, maybe their attitudes or their sense of humor or whatever, and then you put them together and it's like, it just ain't working, you know, they just don't click. One has to be patient to find that special one where both are willing to commit themselves to each other for a lifetime. One has to be patient to find that special one where both are willing to commit themselves to each other for a lifetime. Secondly, after love cannot be forced, he's talking about the physical attraction between a man and a woman is natural. When God created man and woman, he told them to be fruitful and multiply, Genesis 1:28. The sexual relationship is not dirty or immoral when it is confined to the marriage relationship, Hebrews 13:4. Sexual relationships outside of marriage are sinful, period. The writer glorifies the sensual relationship expressed within the bonds of marriage. So Song of Solomon, you know, brags about how good that is or can be, but it's confined within a marriage.
Between that man and a woman.
Yes. And then another lesson to be learned is that the bond of love is strong. For love is as strong as death, jealousy as cruel as the grave, its flames are flames of fire, a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can the floods drown it. If a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. Song of Solomon 8:6-7. Does that make sense to you? That's kind of fancy King James, but you know, if a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. He's despising the wealth, not the love, right? Sometimes that language gets a little tricky, but
Yes, it does.
the strength of love is seen in its ability to so bond the hearts of two people together that they live 50 years or more in commitment to one another, weathering the storms of life together and staying faithful to one another until death separates them. The strength of the bond of love is also seen in the rage of the one who violates that love. Solomon stressed this in the book of Proverbs when he warned the young man to avoid adultery, Proverbs 6:23 to 35. Another lesson is advice to young girls. The book closes with an admonition to protect young women from sexual advances of immoral men. There are two types of girls considered, Song of Solomon 8, verses 8 and 9. One is compared to a wall who has a strong resolution of character and can resist temptations. Another is compared to the swinging door who yields to the advances of persistent men. One needs to build character to be like the wall, able to withstand those temptations. If one is easily influenced, parental controls need to step in to protect her from men who might take advantage of the young lady. One should keep himself or herself for the mate whom he or she marries. This was the resolution of the Shulamite maiden in Song of Solomon chapter 8. In today's modern promiscuity, this is unpopular, but it is God's teaching. Rather than having one's view of sexuality shaped by the atheistic concepts, trust in the Lord and do not lean on your own understanding, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And that it? Questions, comments? Yeah, going back to that one comment there, it says, if a man would give for love all the wealth of his house. I first read that and I was like, what? So, but basically it's what it's saying, if in order to get, he's in love with this woman, and in order to get her, if he had to give all his wealth, he would despise the wealth. He would rather give it up and have her than hold on to all
I
that
have to go
wealth.
read that in the NIV. I know this king is right here.
Well, all right, hopefully y'all got something out of that.
Yes, sir. We'll see you after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You guys have one.